Okay, so lesson 2.2, we are looking at the addition of real numbers. And we're going to use the number line to do this. Okay, so what we're looking at is when you add a positive number, because real numbers can be negative. So when you add a positive number, you move to the right on the number line because you're getting bigger. Okay? When you add a negative number, you're going to move left because you're making it smaller. Okay? So for example, right, we're looking at adding 7 plus negative 3. Okay? I'm going to draw a number line just so we have it. Let's see how it works. Okay, so here's our origin. And then to the right is positive, to the left is negative. Okay, so 7 plus negative 3, right? On our number line, we start at 7. You're adding negative 3, so you're moving to the left 3 units. So 1, 2, 3. That's going to equal 4. If we do negative 8 plus 2, right? That means you start at negative 8, adding a positive number, so you move 2 to the right, so you get negative 6. Okay. If we do negative 2 plus negative 3 plus 6, right? You always start at this number, so we're starting at negative 2, adding negative 3, so you're adding a negative, so you move to the left 3, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. But then you're adding 6, so you're adding a positive, so we're going to the right 6. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you end at positive 1. Okay, this is time consuming though, right? We have to draw a number line, then counting back and forth. So we're looking for a way to do this quicker. Okay, and that takes us to the rules of addition. Right, so this is working for addition, right? And these rules are the commutative property, then the associative property, the identity property, and the property of 0. Or sometimes that's called the inverse property. Okay, so what these say is that the commutative property says you can add two numbers in any order. So A plus B is the same as B plus A. The associative property is just an extension of this commutative property, saying you can add more than two numbers, and it's not going to change in any order. So we could do A plus B plus C, or you could do A plus B plus C in parentheses, and your value won't change. The identity property says when you add 0, your value doesn't change. So any number plus 0 is the number you started with. And then the inverse property says if you add a number and its opposite, you get 0. So A plus the opposite of A will give us 0. All right, so these are rules that we're going to use to help us with adding numbers, adding any real numbers. Okay. What also will help is the rules of addition. And they're on page 73. So it's going to help us if we're adding two positive numbers or two negative numbers. Right? Really just means if they have the same sign. Or if you're adding a positive and a negative. So when you're adding numbers that have the same sign, you're going to add their absolute values and then attach the common sign. So this is most useful when you're adding two negatives, right? So -2 plus -3, they're both negative, so your answer is going to be negative. But then you're adding their absolute values. So the absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of -3 is 3. So you're going to do 2 plus 3 and then attach that common sign. When you're adding a positive and a negative, you're actually going to subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger, and then you're going to attach the sign of the number that has the bigger absolute value. Okay, so 3 plus -9. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take the bigger absolute value, which is 9, so the absolute value of -9, subtract the absolute value of 3. Okay, and then, so 9 minus 3 is 6. -9 has a bigger absolute value, so you attach the negative. So you would get 3 plus -9 is -6. So these are our rules of addition and our properties of addition. All right. So just a couple of examples, and that will give us less than 2.2. So we have negative 0.7 plus 1.9 plus 0.7. Okay, so this tells us we can, and we don't want to use our calculator. So it tells us we can add numbers in any order. I notice that I have a negative 0.7 and a positive 0.7. So I'm going to add those first. Okay, well then I have a property that says when you add a number and its opposite, you get 0. So this gives us 0. And then we have a property that says any number plus 0 is the number we started with. Okay? All right, then we have negative 3 plus 2/3 plus 1/3. So property says you can add numbers in any order, right? So I'm going to add these two first because they're fractions. They already have like denominators. So I get negative 3 plus 2/3 plus 1/3 is just 3/3. You could simplify that. 3/3 is 1. And negative 3 plus 1, right? That's the bigger, so we're subtracting the absolute value. So negative 3 minus 1, or absolute value of negative 3 is 3, and 3 minus 1 is 2. But negative 3 has the bigger absolute value, so you're going to attach that negative, and you get negative 2. Okay, so these are our adding real numbers, 2.2.